Yes, good evening and welcome to the program. My name is Sima Polo and it is the Limelight. Now, President Yoweri Museveni recently issued a directive that all construction projects in the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education will be undertaken by the Uganda People's Defense Forces Engineering Brigade in this new financial year 2021-2022. The President says that the move is to avoid delays that have always been occasioned on government projects, especially due to the delays and the processes in the procurement. And he says this also will save money that government has been spending dealing with private companies that undertake government projects. It has been an issue of debate, and we will need to ask the expert to tell us what this means and what its impacts will be to the economy and to the country. Because President Museveni says that this will only be a pilot project to ensure that in future the UPDF Construction Engineering Brigade will have to take on all government projects. I'll cross over to our guest this evening, and he is Mr. Godfrey Akena. He is an advocate of the courts of judicature in Uganda, but also he is the executive director and a senior tax lecturer at the East African School of Taxation. Godfrey Akena is also a certified public accountant of Uganda with over 18 years experience in tax practice. Good evening and welcome to the program, Mr. Godfrey Akena. And of course, we know that UPDF has built capacity over the years to undertake some construction or engineering projects, but I would want to pick your opinion on what this would mean.
Good evening, viewers. As he has said, my name is Godfrey Akena. I've been in the tax world for quite some time. I've been in the tax practice since 1997. Currently, I'm an advocate of the High Court of Uganda and also the executive director, as you said, of East African School of Taxation. We teach tax and tax policy. I also represent Uganda Law Society as a member of the Tax Agency Registration Committee. I still have around 2 years to represent Uganda Law Society. Going straight to your question about the presidential directive about giving civil works related to schools and hospitals and roads to the UPDF Engineering Brigade for the financial year 2021-2022. I must begin by saying that this is not something new in other parts of the world. For example, if you take countries like the United States of America, you take countries like Russia, you take countries like China, you take countries like North Korea and South Korea, the military is always involved in the civil works. So I think this is a very good step for the country, and it's a good step in the right direction. Whether this will have impact on the economy depends on who is actually, from what angle you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from the tax perspective, one can argue that if this construction was left to the private individuals or private companies, Uganda Revenue Authority would have collected probably taxes like pay as you earn, taxes like the income tax, taxes like VAT, and also those expatriates who work on those civil works, like the engineers, would have paid certain fees to immigration and other taxes to the government. So that could be one of the aspects which I think probably the government will lose this time that the construction will be given to the engineering brigade. But my understanding here is that they're not going to give the whole, all the construction work, all civil works to the UPDF, because I don't think some of them are two, some of them take 5, some construction take 4, some of them take 5. So I don't think that's the spirit at which the directive was given. To me, the directive was given to reduce on the money we spend on these international companies or private engineers or private companies, and bearing in mind that this is a COVID period where probably our resource envelope will be reduced. I saw we're expecting to use around 44.7 trillion, and around 3.1 trillion will be going to the construction. And I believe if this is given to the military brigade, we will get some saving to the government. And also taking back to the military brigade, many of us have seen what the Army has done in the past, the military brigade. You saw when the highlands were coming towards the dam in Jinja. Just imagine if we were to procure and we were to award the contracts. For how long were we going to wait for that island? Actually, that island would have probably destroyed our dam. But you saw what the military brigade did. They came and, I think they call it dredging. They removed that soil very fast, and the island was removed. And this it saved the government money, and it saved us Ugandans from blackout, which we are going to receive as a result of our dam being destroyed. So I think it's a good move. It's a good move, although I know lawyers, as a lawyer, they will say, this contravenes the provisions of the PPDA Act and therefore is illegal. I must say that for every provision of the law, there is always an exception. I don't see how it can be illegal if I have my money and then I want to, let's say, one of the dams has been washed and I have my money. What is wrong with me using my money to construct that dam so that we have the people, passengers flow? For example, let's take an example of the roof of a school being blown off. Do we need to wait for a procurement process to put the roof back? Can't we call the UPDF, our engineering department, and say, please come and put the roof back, and we have our students back? So for me, I think it is a move in the right direction because it is being done in other parts of the world.
Mr. Akena, you partly answered my question about your perspective in the line of taxes, and looks like the president says that this will be a pilot project that will, of course, open course for future bigger projects or government projects to be undertaken by the UPDF Engineering Brigade. So you mean to say that if we decide to award all the future contracts to the UPDF Engineering Brigade, we will be losing some of those taxes that we would be charging on these other private and foreign contractors? Make it clear, Mr. Akena.
Yes, the president said this will be on a pilot basis. And I know, even if it is successful, what I don't believe is that it will take 100% civil works to be given to the UPDF Engineering Brigade. Some of these civil works are very technical. For example, I know you've moved, you've gone through the express highway going to Entebbe. You've seen that there was the road is flying over a swamp for a very long distance. Some of these skills we may not have in this country. And we have not developed that capacity or competence to do that. So I believe it will be phase by phase, but will not be 100% civil works to be given to the UPDF Engineering Brigade. But if it is 100% to the UPDF Engineering Brigade, it will still be a blessing, because we would collect this money from these private companies, send it to the consolidated fund. The same money will be requisitioned by the same money will be budgeted and given to UNRWA and all these government entities to do the same thing. So instead of collecting it, sending it back and giving it back to these fellas, I believe this will still be a good move in the right direction.
As an accountant, you must be interested in issues to do with frugality and saving here and there. Do you agree with the president that this move will save money for government?
Yes, this move will save money for government because of a number of reasons. You are all aware, and we all know, and we've been reading in papers, we've been seeing people being taken to anti-corruption court because of fraud or corruption related to the procurement processes in this country. You remember the Katosi Road? There are many which have taken place. And this, I believe, if we give it to the engineering brigade of UPDF, this type of things will not take place again, will not occur, because the rules of the game for the UPDF is totally different. In the army, the instructions and the orders are always so straight that everybody who is involved in it knows the repercussion of what will happen if he doesn't do the right thing he was told to do. So I believe that's one reason corruption, which has been too much in the civil works and the procurement process, will be reduced. This will mean more money saved by the government. Two, the lengthy process of the procurement, the cycle is too long. The cycle of procurement is so long. This will be reduced, and at the end of the day, we will get services to the people faster. I gave you an example of that floating island. If we were to wait, it would take a long time. It would have taken 6 to 9 months for a private company to work. So all that is saving money to the government. Already the UPDF engineering department has money which is already budgeted for them to use. So when the government calls them to do a particular thing, this, I believe, will save the treasury and the government. So yes, it is correct. This will save the government revenue resources, or the revenue envelope.
Mr. Kena, I'm imagining UPDF has been involved in several projects and activities. Look at the operation notification, UPDF is there. Then we had to call UPDF to intervene when there are issues to do with disasters across the country and many other areas. And I'm imagining if we always bring UPDF, an institution that has over time preserved and built its integrity. Don't you think this would at some point soil the integrity of UPDF?
I think to a greater extent, no. Because as you know, the UPDF has been involved in so many construction projects. You've been to Mbuya, I think you've seen there's a big hospital coming up there. You've been to the leadership center, Chankwanzi. It was done by the UPDF. You've been to Nakasongola, you've seen what they do there. You've been to quite a number. If you look at the housing, the estates inside the barracks, all those are being built by the UPDF engineering department. For your information, the UPDF engineering department has the same engineers and probably the same qualifications with these engineers who are in the private sector. So it's only that for them, they chose to join the army and work in the engineering department of UPDF, as opposed to this gentleman who remained outside and worked for the private sector. So in terms of knowledge, they are the same. And I don't see how they will affect the integrity and soil the name of UPDF. UPDF, as you all know, is a very disciplined force.
All right, then I have to, of course, thank you so much for your time. But what is that parting shot that you can aim before we move on? I'm saying we are winding up. I would want to hear your parting shot as we move on, especially on the integrity of.
Well, as the president said, this is a pilot project. We will see whether it will work out in 2021, 2022. If it works out, I believe the government will give more projects to the UPDF engineering brigade. And as a country, I strongly believe if more work is given, if this is a successful project and more work is given to the UPDF in future, the government will save a lot of money, and this will help us to now direct the money we have saved to provide other services to the Ugandans.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Godfrey Akena. Thank you for your time and that insightful discussion we've had this evening. Well,
thank you.
Was our guest this evening. He is an advocate of the courts of judicature in Uganda, but also he is the executive director and senior tax lecturer at the East African School of Taxation. He has served as a tax technical advisor and trainer for the World Bank, the African Development Bank, as well as governments of Uganda, Rwanda, Liberia, Somaliland, and Puntland. It's been the issue of UPDF Engineering Brigade taking over government projects, especially in construction department. And we hope to see how that works out. Good evening. Let's meet next weekend.